Welcome back. Today I will once again be explaining why Man of Steel is a terrible movie. I won't make the intro too long because if you've seen part 1, you already know the basics. If you have not seen part 1 for some reason, I strongly advise that you do. In that video I explained why I'm not just making this a really long video and instead opting to make it 3 parts, and I also explained a good chunk of problems with the movie. So that's basically all you need to know. Link to part 1 is in the description. By the way, small note from future Jake here. I had a cold while voicing over some parts of this video, so sometimes my voice might sound a bit off, or, maybe the mic sounds a bit off. It's not that, it's my cold. My voice will be a bit lower sometimes, so yeah, I'm sorry. Anyway, on with the video now. So now we were introduced to a new character in the movie played by Amy Adams. Unfortunately though, I forgot her name completely, so, like the others, let's make a new name for her. How about Plot Device? Plot Device is literally a nothing character. Her only purpose is basically plot device. Oh, and also to love Bleak. Don't forget that one. We don't know her background, who she is, what her personality's like. We know nothing about her, other than she likes Bleak Kent at some point, and at times she's a little sassy. Also, she's a reporter. We never get any moments of her actually connecting with Bleak. They just automatically love each other at the end because, well, it's what happened in the comics, so you gotta make it happen in the movie. We don't actually see them connect. We don't even see them being friends. We get 3 scenes with them talking. One is, Plot Device being hit with Bleak's laser eyes. The other is Bleak telling her about his dad's death. And then the other is them talking about his S.
What's the S stand for?
Sociopath. Oh, and then there's this scene where she talks about how they gave her visions just like Bleak did. And that's basically it. So yeah, they never actually connect. Seriously, I want someone to name me one moment where her and Bleak actually have a heart-to-heart in Man of Steel. That's a trick question because their first heart-to-heart is in Batman v Superman. Can anyone tell me why these two love each other? Because I couldn't tell you, because I know nothing about either of these two. Other than this one likes to kill people and this one doesn't have any character. So Lois starts investigating around this Fortress of Solitude, and Bleak puts this codex thing into this chamber. After that, he starts seeing visions of someone who looks kinda like Gary Stewell. Meanwhile, Plot Device finds a robot from Krypton, which then shoots her. Never mind, it didn't really shoot her, just kind of hit her or something. I don't know. It looked like it shot her for a second, but I guess it didn't. Bleak saves her, destroys the robot, and then heals her wounds. So after that, Bleak saves Plot Device and carries the fortress away. Plot Device then tries to get Perry White, the best character in the movie, to print her story. Then we get some amazing dialogue.
That's what they're supposed to do. It's the Pentagon. Perry, come on, it's me we're talking about. I'm a Pulitzer Prize-winning reporter.
Then act like it.
So now I guess it's a perfect time to mention the dialogue.
We've had a child, son. A boy child.
My soul. That is what you have taken from me.
You're a monster, Zod. And I'm gonna stop you.
Where did you train? On a farm?
How do we know you won't one day act against America's interests?
I grew up in Kansas, General.
I think Zack Snyder films have always had trouble with dialogue. Whether it's conveying exposition or a human emotion. Nobody talks like these people. In the case of Zod and Gary Stewell, I'm a little bit more willing to forgive them since they come from Krypton and they talk maybe a little bit differently there, maybe a bit more stoically. And they're genetically altered, so they're going to be a bit more stoic. Bleak, however, should talk like humans because he was raised by humans. He was born on Krypton, but he wasn't raised on Krypton. He was raised on Earth, so he should talk like humans. One of the main ideas of Superman is, even though he's an alien, he's human. He feels human emotions. His humanity can still sometimes get the best of him.
Couldn't save them. Put this on. I made a promise to keep fighting, no matter what.
Come on. No! No!
something you could have done. Nothing.
Clark, I know you're blaming yourself, but this was not your fault.
How can you say that? I went back to save Lana. And now Dad's gone.
Dad! Dad!
Dad?
Now one might say, well, this version shows emotions too. But it's not about just emotions, it's about human emotions. And yes, you can argue that's a result of that, but my point was he doesn't feel human, and his screams don't feel earned. We'll get into those scenes and why they're abominations later, but my point is, the Reeves, Routh, and Welling Superman were all so much more human than this Cavill, Bleak Kent. This character doesn't talk like a human, nor does he feel like a human. Because of that, his screams, though they're the most human it ever gets, don't feel as human because his character isn't as human. Does that make sense? I'm trying to explain it in the best way I can. Being a human is about more than screaming. It's about how they talk, how they interact with others. We get behind their screams of pain because usually those movies or shows establish their connections well. But in Man of Steel, I can't get behind his screams. You know why? Because one is for Richard Kent, who suggested that maybe children should die to protect Bleak's identity. I wasn't screaming, I was rooting for that man to die. And his second quote-unquote human scream is right after he kills Zod, which is the first time he cares about anything in the final battle. He didn't scream for these people, or for these people, or for these people, but no, he screamed for Zod. That's stupid. And there's about 50 other reasons why that scene's dumb, but we'll get to that in part 3. The dialogue and directing doesn't feel human. It doesn't come off as human emotions or how humans talk. I think part of that is because Zack Snyder isn't really that good of an actor's director. He's a decent set director, but when it comes to actors, he's not as good as directing them. He doesn't get what he needs from them for some reason. If your movie makes Amy Adams look as wooden of an actress as Kristen Stewart, then maybe you need to direct your actors a little bit more. Next, Bleak is talking to his father for a little bit. He tells Bleak his name, and then he goes into some descriptions about Krypton. And this is when we get to those problems that I mentioned in the first part. There are technically more issues with this scene and Krypton in general, but there's further explanation to it, so I'll just save my criticisms for later. So now Gary Stillwell is going to give some important exposition about Krypton.
You came from Krypton, a world with a much harsher environment than Earth's.
Keep that line in mind. It may or may not be important later.
Long ago, our race spread out through the stars, seeking new worlds to settle upon. This scout ship was one of thousands launched into the void.
So that means you had the ability to go into space. Meaning, you guys all had ships that could have evacuated the citizens of Krypton, thus securing the survival of your race.
Are you seriously suggesting that we evacuate the entire planet?
Yeah.
You won't be able to save everyone, but you can save a good chunk of your planet if you start evacuating. You have outposts that you found. Send them there. You have suits you can give them in case they can't live in the atmosphere. Do something.
We built outposts on other planets, using great machines to reshape environments to our needs. For 100,000 years, our civilization flourished.
What happened?
Artificial population control was established. The outposts and space exploration were abandoned.
But why? Why would you do that? Why would you do any of that?
Now, what logical sense does it make to abandon something like that? The answer is none. You can save your entire race with these things. Why did you abandon them?
We exhausted our natural resources. Our planet's core became unstable.
Now, if only there were a place with an outpost that could continue Krypton. Oh wait, they captured several planets putting those there, and they did nothing with them. I hate this movie so very, very much.
This is a Genesis chamber. All Kryptonians were conceived in chambers such as this. Every child was designed to fulfill a predetermined role in our society. As a worker, a warrior, a leader. Your mother and I believe Krypton had lost something precious. The element of choice.
But you did still have choice. What are you talking about? Obviously, these genetically altered people do have some choices because Zod chose to defy his entire planet and you chose to break the rules and have a kid naturally. So yeah, maybe you do have choices. Along with that, if there's a need for a military, then there must be some Kryptonian criminals. Like, right? There were criminals on Krypton, right? That's why you have a military? There were bad people on Krypton? Well, I highly doubt they designed bad people. So yes, those Kryptonians have choice. This is important for later, by the way. So Gary Stewell presents Bleak with the suit, and wait, where did the super suit even come from? So who in the House of L had this? Who made it like this? Why did it look like this? It looks nothing like actual Kryptonian suits other than the design. The actual color seems completely different. Why is that? Did they do this right before he came here? Did Gary Stewell do this? What's going on here? Give Wonder Woman 84 some credit. It may suck, but at least explain the whole armor thing. Okay, I think I might be convinced. Wonder Woman 84 is better than this movie. I don't care. But then we get something shocking. Are you ready? A well-written scene. Yeah, I'm being nice. Bleak's first flight scene is actually well-written. He can't just do it out of nowhere like in Wonder Woman 84. He has to legitimately learn how to do it. That's good writing. So, yeah. Appreciate the fact that I'm saying this movie has one well-written scene, because trust me, it's the only well-written scene in the entire movie. Now I know all of you are happy that I just gave this film some praise, but I'm sorry to disappoint you, there is one problem with the scene.
Damn it!
I'm sorry, I know it's annoying, but I can't help it. The problem is the filmmaking aspect. I went over the basic problems of the filmmaking in part 1, but I'll cover them again here. This scene has some really weird zooms, and it's in the entire movie. The camera will randomly zoom in on something, and it's really stupid. The shaky camera is also still there, and the lighting is also off at times. If it weren't for the poor filmmaking, this scene would be good. But unfortunately, the bad filmmaking is just constantly taking me out of it. And once again, the camera operator needs to back away from the actor. So we're about 40 minutes into this mess of a movie. And what in the plot has really happened so far? Nothing. The plot hasn't started yet. 40 minutes into the movie and the plot hasn't started yet. Well, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2's plot didn't even start until the end of the second act. What are you complaining about? I hear this all the time and it really bugs me, but no, that's not the case. The plot for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 begins at 23 minutes and 23 seconds in the movie. Just because the reveal is at the end of the second act doesn't mean the plot isn't happening. There are still things happening, they're just small. The plot relies on Ego manipulating Peter, his son, so that they can do his plan together. That's why there's so much character work. Maybe it feels like nothing's happening, but the truth is there's a lot happening. Ego, the villain, is manipulating Peter, and the Guardians are also going through their own character drama. Nebula escapes and there's a fight between her and Gamora. Drax connects with Mantis. Rocket and Yondu are trying to get to Ego and also go through their own events, which are part of the plot. And Ego is manipulating Star-Lord. These are all things in the plot. The Ego and Star-Lord stuff are small character steps. But the stuff Rocket and Yondu and the other Guardians do, those are all main events in the plot. The plot starts when Ego picks them up. We're 40 minutes into this Abomination, and you know what we know so far? Some bad exposition that makes no sense, and some really, really bad character work. Nothing more. I'm sorry. That's bad storytelling. I don't care what you say or how you say it. So Plot Device is doing some investigating, trying to find Bleak Kent. Eventually she's at Richard Kent's grave, and she meets Bleak there.
Where are you from? What are you doing here?
What if I don't want my story told?
It's going to come out eventually. The way you could disappear for good is to stop helping people altogether, and I sense that's not an option for you.
Who is writing this woman's dialogue? What he's been doing so far seems to have been working, you idiot. That's not the only way to disappear for good. What are you talking about? And then we get another Richard Kent flashback.
Damn it!
I just want to do something useful with my life.
So farming, feeding people, that's not useful.
I didn't say that.
My memory's a bit wary, but what was it you wanted Bleak to do when he was ready?
One day you're gonna think of them as a blessing, and when that day comes, you're gonna have to make a choice. Choice of whether to stand proud in front of the human race or not.
I just want to do something useful with my life.
So farming, feeding people, that's not useful.
I didn't say that.
Our family's been farming for 5 generations, Clark.
Your family, not mine.
Can any of you honestly look me in the eye? See my eye? I want you to look right at it. Can you honestly tell me that isn't at all, not even a little bit, hypocritical? No offense, don't take this personally, but I really don't get how that's not hypocritical. That is the most contradictory thing that anyone could possibly say. While on the road, they spot a tornado. Now, how in the world did they not spot that thing? You're telling me they didn't hear or see anything? Are your eyes not on the road, Richard? How did you not see or hear that? Everyone starts getting to safety, but it turns out they left the dog in the car. You'd think for a smart person he'd send Bleak to go get the dog since he can do it much faster. As long as he doesn't use super speed, he won't be caught. You're mistaken though, because Richard Kent is not a smart character. He's a dumb character, and also a terrible character. There were several ways out of the situation where nobody had to die. Hey Bleak, run but don't use super speed and grab the dog. Hey Bleak, sneak around those cars and get the dog. Maybe use super speed after you sneak around the cars. The people aren't focusing on the nobody Bleak Kent, they're focusing on the tornado and trying to get away from it. So if Bleak were to get out of view, maybe run behind a car and then get the dog and get back, boom, problem solved. Just don't use your powers like super speed if you have it right now. This is common sense. So we get the very sad death of Richard Kent. Don't know why it's so sad when really that's all I want. I will say I find it out of character that Bleak would not save him. Like, yeah, I don't buy for a second that he would care that he said no. Based on what we've seen up to this point, I have no doubt that if he weren't character assassinated, he would have saved him anyway. Quick reminder, by the way, we still don't have a plot. So Lois goes to see Perry White, and she says she's dropping the story, and Perry's about to punish her.
2 weeks leave, no pay, that's your penance. You try something like this again, you're done here.
Fine.
No, let's make it 3 weeks since you're so willing to agree with me.
Perry.
Who wrote this dialogue? Dad, I accept responsibility. I know I shouldn't have hit that kid in the face. I'm sorry. Well then, since you agree with me, you're grounded for 5 weeks now instead of 1. How dare you agree with me and accept responsibility? What? I hope you all realize that's exactly what this scene is.
Can you imagine how people on this planet would react if they knew there was someone like this out there?
Hey guys, my name is David Goyer. I want to make this very realistic Superman movie. That's why we have such a selfless take on the media, because that's definitely what the media is actually like. They're not hounding people. They're not just dying to get clicks. No, they're selfless like this guy. Imagine being such a garbage movie that you make Lawrence Fishburne look like a bad actor, and you give him such hilariously dumb dialogue. Do you know what the really sad part is, though? He's still the best character in the movie. Normally, I wouldn't feel sad saying that, since it's Lawrence Fishburne and he's awesome. But man, his dialogue is just awful. So now we're back with the military, and what's that I see? Is that a plot I'm looking at? Holy crap, an hour and 1 minute into the movie, and we finally got a plot! So everyone sees this on TV, and eventually Zod starts talking to the people.
My name is General Zod. Kal-El, I say this. Surrender within 24 hours. Or watch this world suffer the consequences.
Zod, you don't want this world to fight back, right? Because you're literally threatening all of them. And you're making them, like, be afraid of you. Wouldn't you want them to be more cooperative and maybe less afraid of you? I'm just saying, that's what I would do. So Lois gets outed on TV for knowing who an alien is.
Have you seen him? Do you know where he is?
No. And even if I did, I wouldn't say.
Why? You had 2 interactions with him. Only once where you talked to him, and it was him talking about his crazy father. You don't know him. Shouldn't everything you know about him being questioned now since the world is being threatened? What if he has the same morals as them? Shouldn't you be questioning him a bit more? Why does she care about him? She does not know him. They didn't get to know each other in the cemetery. They talked about his dad's death and that's it. She doesn't know him well enough for me to buy this. I don't know about you guys, but to me, personally, it'd make a bit more sense for her to maybe try to go get some answers of her own. Maybe try to figure out who he really is and what his intentions are. Or even better yet, if a good storyteller wrote this, she would already know his intentions, and she would already know him by this point, because that's the point of this. Her saying she won't give him up should mean something. But it doesn't, because she doesn't know him by this point. Thus, she looks naive and stupid. I just want to once again highlight how much I truly hate this movie. It misunderstands some of the most basic fundamentals of writing any story, such as, when a character makes a decision like she just did, it should feel earned, but it isn't because she doesn't know him. A connection needs to be made for that decision to be made. Her saying no should mean something, but it doesn't because she doesn't know this guy. Was the camera operator really just doing a normal shot and then just look up to the exit sign to tell us where she was going? Why did you do that? It is so odd and it takes me out of it. What are you doing? Look at this. Why did you move the camera up just to tell us she's exiting and then right back down? I feel like I'm losing my mind talking about this filmmaking. So now Lois gets taken by the FBI. Then Bleak goes to see a priest, and I know I made fun of this in part 1, but I'll just do it again. Who is this priest? Why does Bleak go to see him? I don't have a problem with him going to see him, but why? Why does he go to see him? Is he religious? Does he know this priest? I don't know. The movie didn't tell me. The only reason this here is for Jesus symbolism, which, yeah, I'll get into that more in part 3 because oh boy, did the Jesus symbolism make me upset. But you know what? If you're gonna do it, at least do it right. Have a reason besides Jesus symbolism, please. Well, you don't want them to spend like 10 minutes explaining who this priest is. 3 lines is all I need.
Zod can't be trusted. The problem is, I'm not sure if the people of Earth can be either.
I am dangerously close to saying Justice League is a better movie. You have no idea how hard it is for me to not talk about why this is such a terrible adaptation of Superman right now. Hearing that line makes me so infuriated. But no, I'm gonna stick with it. I'm only gonna talk about why it's a terrible movie. I'm not gonna talk about how the whole point of Superman, or one of the main points of Superman, is he sees the best in humanity, and he always loves humanity. He would fight for humanity. He would die for humanity. He always sees the best of us. I'm not gonna talk about that because it's not like that's a fundamental characteristic of Superman that should probably be in every Superman adaptation because it's an adaptation. Nope, I'm only gonna talk about why it's a bad movie, not a bad Superman adaptation, because it is definitely the worst Superman adaptation I've ever seen, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about why Man of Steel is a bad movie. Okay, let's keep going. So Bleak shows up in his suit, and that actually opens up another problem. Why does Bleak have the Superman suit? What did he plan to do with it? Did he instantly want to save people? Did he want to use it to be a hero, to be heroic? No, we actually don't know. He just didn't have a plan, and now he's going to use it. So now, basically, him donning that suit meant nothing in the first flight scene. Do you know what that means? There's actually a character flaw and writing flaw in the first flight scene, because now that moment isn't earned.
Son of a bitch!
So Plot Device is interviewing Bleak, and you'd think this would be a great opportunity to pay homage to the original and have these two characters finally connect. Spoiler alert, they don't do that. Now I'm going to criticize the filmmaking again for a second, but this scene is aggressively blue and desaturated, and it doesn't look good. The Dark Knight had a blue filter too, but there are 2 things to that. The Dark Knight knows how to use colors, and this movie and every Zack Snyder movie I've ever seen doesn't. And 2, this scene is much more aggressive about it than The Dark Knight was, and it's also desaturated and it just looks odd. The way the characters' faces are lit just looks strange, and it's just very off-putting from a filmmaking perspective. So now Bleak is being handed over to Zod, and he has to say goodbye to Plot Device because they've spent a very long and powerful journey together. Totally.
General Zod would like this woman to accompany me.
Huh, that's strange General Zod would want plot device. I sure hope they explain why he took her and don't just not explain it and it only further makes Zod look like an idiot, but no. They wouldn't do that. This is Man of Steel, a cinematic masterpiece. They definitely wouldn't screw up such a basic fundamental of telling a story. So plot device surrenders with Bleak. Maybe now they'll actually connect his characters. Y'all know they're still not going to, because once again, this movie was written by David Goyer. So him and plot device go to finally meet Zod.
I feel strange.
What's happening to him?
He's rejecting our ship's atmospherics.
This man is able to go in space. Being in other atmospheres should not hurt him. Movie, can you be consistent for 5 minutes, please? So the man who can move around in space gets knocked out because he's in another atmosphere, and he has some sort of illusion where he talks to Zod. So Zod tells Bleak about how he was sentenced to the Phantom Zone and basically everything that happened in the beginning.
The destruction of our world freed us.
Krypton being destroyed freed them from the Phantom Zone. So where was the Phantom Zone? Based on this information, I would guess that it was literally right next to Krypton, but why? If it's right next to Krypton, why would you send Zod there? That makes the Council of Krypton look even dumber. Did you not consider that the explosion of your planet would make that thing fall apart and would hit it? Maybe break it apart? How big was the Phantom Zone? Can we even see the Phantom Zone? Spoiler alert, we never actually see the Phantom Zone, so I don't know the answer to any of these questions. How small was the Phantom Zone? Was like the control of the Phantom Zone on Krypton? If that's the case, why would you send anyone there when the planet's about to explode? In most Superman stories, the Phantom Zone isn't literally right next to Krypton. It's like in another kind of world, and the destruction of Krypton doesn't affect it, meaning the criminals there stay there forever. Now, I don't have a problem changing this necessarily, but you have to actually explain the change so that this makes sense. This is Man of Steel, though, so they didn't explain it because, again, it's Man of Steel.
We sought out the old colonial outposts, looking for signs of life. But all we found was death. Cut off from Krypton, these outposts withered and died long ago.
What? Why? So if the outposts didn't work for them because Krypton exploded, doesn't that mean it won't work for Earth? This isn't me being sarcastic, by the way. I genuinely want someone to explain it to me because I really don't understand it. Please, actually, like Altex, please, someone who likes this movie, please explain it to me. I really don't understand it. I am so confused by this.
On Krypton, the genetic template for every being yet to be born is encoded in the Registry of Citizens. Your father stole the registry's codex and stored it in the capsule that brought you here, so that Krypton can live again.
Didn't you just say that those outposts and people there died because Krypton died? Why is it any different to Earth? Because it has the registry's codex? Why would having the codex mean that they don't die? I get the codex is like the future of Krypton, but those Krypton soldiers on those outposts still died because Krypton died. And that doesn't make any sense. I'm so confused by that still. Will Earth also die? I'm so confused by this awful script.
If Krypton lives again, what happens to Earth?
The foundation has to be built on something. Even your father recognized that.
You idiot! Why would you tell him this? The future of the people that you swore to protect, which is your main motivation, is in this man's hands. And you're telling him that if he gives you what you want, everyone he knows and loves are gonna die. You're an idiot! And here I thought Zod was like the best villain of DCEU. Yeah, I take it back. This guy's an idiot.
World with a much harsher environment than Earth's.
Actually, that kind of brings up a good point. Why would Zod want to bring back Krypton? He just said it had a very harsh environment. Wouldn't Earth look like a paradise to him? Also, he seems to be aware that Earth gives people powers, so wouldn't that sway him? You know, to protect Krypton? Wouldn't it make more sense for him to want to build a Krypton with superpowered beings? Like on Earth? I'm okay with kind of having Krypton again, but I feel like it should affect his character at least a little bit if he recognizes that you get powers on Earth. So now they're trying to get a sample of his blood, and this guy's in it too? Man, you were so much better on Smallville, I'm just saying. So now one of the Kryptonian guards are throwing plot device in this pod, I think. Oh, by the way, why was she here again? Why did Zod want her? Did she have something he needed? Is it because she knows Bleak, even though Bleak is here with them? So all the information they need, they can get from him if Zod would just stop being dumb and lie to him. Guys, I don't know how much longer I can do this. This movie is so fascinatingly bad and so poorly written. It's starting to break my brain. So plot device goes next to the pod thing. They locked her next to the pod? I don't know what this thing's called, but you know what I'm talking about. They locked her next to this thing. Why? Do all your prison cells have this? Is your superpower being dumb? Also, why did Bleak give this to her? They were both captured. They were gonna get it either way. Well, I guess it was really lucky and convenient that he gave it to her so she can turn this thing on and get Gary Stuell to come help her. I need to take a breath. This movie really is breaking my brain. Just give me a minute. So Gary Stuell helps her around the base, and she puts the Earth atmosphere on, I guess, and turns off the Kryptonian atmosphere. Don't even ask me how that works. It's a David Goyer script. What do you expect? Logic?
What's happening?
Hold on, what's that? My problem senses are tingling. Help me remember, where did your powers come from again?
Young star. His cells will drink its radiation.
Oh, that's right. The sun. So just because the Earth's atmosphere gets turned on doesn't mean you get your powers back. So here we have an other contradiction. Yay! And now my plot armor senses are tingling. So here we see this guy actually had a shot and just waited for her to shoot him. So, you know, it kind of reminds me of this one fight in Last Jedi with, I think they were called Kryptonian guards, where they waited for the main characters to kill them a lot, instead of killing them logically for the sake of, you know, the plot. And look, here they are doing it again. No wonder Krypton blew up. They had the worst military. Man, this movie loves plot armor. I mean, look at this. Plot device just bested a Kryptonian soldier.
We wanted you to learn what it meant to be human first. So that one day, when the time was right, you could be the bridge between two peoples. And he will be free. Free to forge his own destiny.
So first, Gary Stu says, we want him to be free. Free to forge whatever destiny he wants. Then he says, actually, you were meant to bridge the gap between two peoples. Yep, that's definitely consistent. Please, Bleak, don't kill me! So Bleak saves plot device, and I just want to remind you that that thing fell from space.
I didn't want to tell them anything about you, but they did something to me. They looked inside my mind.
It's okay, Lois. They did the same thing to me.
Why did they look inside her mind? She had no information that they needed. If you had just been smart and lied to Bleak like a smart villain, you wouldn't have needed her because you didn't need her anyway. But you're not a smart villain. You're a dumb villain. So Zod is now at Martha Kent's looking for the Codex. How did you do that? You haven't absorbed the radiation of the sun. You don't have Bleak's powers. So, how? They can't find the Codex, and all of a sudden... Great move, idiot. You left your mom with like 3 other soldiers.
You think you can threaten my mother?
Once again, brilliant dialogue. Well, that killed at least one person, probably more. I mean, look at this car. This is a car getting pumped currently. Like, it's right at the gas pump, which means someone's there out of frame pumping their car. And then, boom, they're dead, thanks to Bleak Kent. I wonder how they'll explore the ramifications of this. I mean, this was Bleak's fault. Maybe that'll take a toll on his character and he'll have a huge strain of guilt. It'll be a huge stepping point for his character development. Or he'll spend the next few seconds relishing in Zod's pain.
Without your helmet, you're getting everything. And it hurts. Doesn't it?
Screw this, I'm done. I can't do anymore. See you in part 3.